Hey friends, welcome back to Acre Homestead. My name is Becky and today we are going to do a garden tour video. It's been, I think, 6 weeks since we've done a garden tour video and it is time. Things are looking a lot different. My girls are hanging out here with me today. Because the garden is kind of starting to wrap up, I've been letting them hang out and run around, and so you're gonna see a little bit of damage from them, but not too much. I've also got a basket here because there are some tomatoes that need to be harvested. Today it's like 82 degrees, it's September 25th, and we are supposed to have 8 consecutive days of rain. And I feel like that is going to do some damage to some tomatoes and some other things that we have out here. So it's time just to go ahead and get them out of the garden and get them inside, and then we'll deal with whatever it looks like after it's done raining. All right, first off, you can see these kind of like indents here. That's where the girls have gone through and pecked at the ground, which I'm fine with. I will need to come out and level it eventually, but I'm not worried about it right now. We've got our fig tree. There are figs on here that need to be harvested. Maybe I'll do that this afternoon, like this one. Let's see. This one, I'm gonna dehydrate figs, and I'm thinking about like making roasts and trying to do some like savory dishes with figs. I already have 2 fig recipes up that I've filmed. I've got a balsamic onion fig chutney that is to die for if you want to watch that. And I also have fig jam. If you want to watch that, it'll be linked down in the description box. But for now, I think what I'm going to do when I harvest a bunch of these figs this afternoon is I'm probably going to dehydrate them. We have our bean trellis here, and I'm letting these ones go to seed. I wonder if I should probably harvest these before it rains. So I'm gonna do that this afternoon too. I'm gonna come out and pick. They're feeling pretty dry. Yep. Yes, we'll do that this afternoon. I gotta get those off of there so that they can finish drying inside and I don't lose them to mold. I just had that thought. I can't believe I didn't think that earlier. Our tomato trellis has worked really well. This one that broke that I showed you in the last one when I got back from Montana, it's held up just fine. These tomato plants are still continuing to ripen, and our cherry tomatoes on this one are doing really well too, so I'm happy with that. I'm finally starting to get some of these indigo rose tomatoes to ripen, and they're just absolutely stunning. I don't know if I'm going to grow them next year. You can see how they kind of turn red at the bottom when they're ripe. I don't know if I'm going to grow them next year because they took forever to ripen versus these ones ripen really quickly, and I've been harvesting these all year long. We're done with the fruit trees. All the fruit has been picked. I actually just spent this morning processing all the apples. Oh, there's a bunny. I think Miss Bunny lives back here because I've seen her hop around this apple tree many times. I lied when I said I was done with the apple trees. I don't know, I forgot, but I still have this apple tree I need to harvest. Let's take a look at the apples together. Let's see here. Oh, that's rotten. There's some really good apples on here. I need to come and harvest them, and we'll put these in the fridge for later. I want to be real with you. This garden is not looking super great. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but there's weeds everywhere. The plants are overgrown. There's flowers that have dead heads all over them. This is what happens right now at the end of the year is I'm inside a lot processing all this food. And what happens is in the spring and early summer, there's kind of this lull area, and I can get out here and hang out here, and I'm just waiting for everything to ripen. And then I get out here and stuff starts coming in, and I got to bring it inside and I got to deal with it. And I already have missed a lot of things in this garden where I just haven't harvested them and it's gone bad. And I have to kind of be okay with that and accept that that's part of gardening because there's only one of me and I don't have time for everything. So anything that goes bad ends up going to the chickens, so I just turn it into eggs. But I've learned to I have to give myself grace because I do work and I just haven't had time to spend as much time in the garden as I want. So know that you're gonna see weeds in here, things are overgrown, you're gonna see dead heads, you're gonna see things that didn't get harvested that are going bad on the vine. and that's okay. It's okay. I am telling myself, I'm telling me it's okay, because I do feel guilt about that, but it's just, I have to give myself grace because it's part of the process. So like here, let's show you this tomato bed. It's a weedy mess. There's a blackberry in here that I need to pull out. You can see the kale plant here and here. I have a ton of kale in my freezer and dehydrated, so I didn't need all this kale on here, and I let my girls go to town on it, and they enjoyed a nice kale snack. I've got carrots in here that I should have harvested a long time ago. I just haven't gotten to them, and we will get to them. And then there's a bunch of tomatoes in here that are nice that I'm gonna come out after I'm done filming this, and we'll harvest a bunch of these tomatoes. I've got a weed here that's gone to seed, which is awesome, which just means that was sarcasm because that means I've got to probably weed more in here. Tons of weeds, tons of beautiful green tomatoes. Tomatoes over here I gotta get. Weeds, 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 but it's okay. Plants with disease. Look at this beautiful Roma tomato. I'm gonna bring this inside. I have a pot of tomato sauce in my roaster right now. I'm gonna throw this in. My pepper bed has been so productive. This by far is the best peppers I've ever grown this year. Most of the peppers are off the plant now. I have some cilantro that's growing along here. I harvested a bunch of that this morning, and I made salsa verde with that, and then my green tomatillos. But I can see there are a few more peppers out here that I need to harvest this afternoon. And there's a bee. This is Thai basil I let go to seed, and I don't think it's gone to seed yet, so if it dries out after we have all this rain, oh wait, maybe there's some. No, those aren't, oh, you know what? There is some seed in there. You see those little black dots in my hand? I don't think they're quite dry or ready. After the rainfall, we'll come out and harvest those if they're still good. If not, I'll just buy some more Thai basil seeds. I let all of this basil go to seed because I want it to be a pollinator. Can you see how many bees are hanging around this? They love the Thai basil, and there's probably 20 bees right here right now. I wanted them just to be out here enjoying some of these flowers, and they just love it. Some exciting news. I signed up for my county's bee association, and I've just purchased a book on how to raise bees, and this winter I am going to be researching. That's one of my goals. We are getting bees in 2022, and so I just want to be able to create an environment where bees enjoy being and I give them enough food. Obviously I need to learn a lot more about it, but I am going to have a lot of Thai basil and basil in my garden next year that I'm going to let go to seed or go to flower so that they can enjoy that. This bed is supposed to be my fall bed, but what's happened is my chickens got to it and they've just been enjoying eating fresh snacks. This is a cabbage plant, and I have so much processing I'm still doing inside that I figured I am not going to worry about trying to get every last ounce of produce out of here. I'm going to let my chickens enjoy some fresh produce. And I harvested a bunch of black beans, and I took the shells and I just threw them in here. I'm going to let them compost in this bed. Here is a volunteer tomato plant. I'm not going to get any tomatoes off this plant because it's way too late in the season, but I've kind of just let this plant do its thing. And I'm going to come out and harvest this basil right here, and I'm going to put this in the spaghetti sauce that I'm making, or marinara sauce that I have cooking on the stove right now. From the fall bed, we've got another fall bed. It is looking overgrown and jungly as well. We have some calendula down here that I've been harvesting calendula flowers from. Some more cabbages that my chickens have been enjoying. I have peas back here that I have been harvesting peas off. These were supposed to be dwarf peas. They weren't supposed to get taller than 24 inches. I checked the packaging when I bought them, and they have become a mess. This year I didn't trellis any of my, well, that's not true. I trellised some of my peas. This is a big lesson for me this year. Is one of my goals is I'm not going to grow any peas that are not trellised, because what happens, let me show you. This is completely a disaster and just a waste a little bit, but because it's food preservation season, it's been really hard for me to get out here and focus on the fall crops. Maybe next year that will be one of my goals, is to pay more attention to extending my growing season, because I do live in an area where I can grow most of the year. I can have something in the garden most of the year, but mentally I'm not there yet because the summer's harvest and preservation is so much work that I haven't learned, because this is only my second year, how to process all the produce that's coming in and focus on the fall, because it's you know, planting and growing is kind of one mindset, and then harvesting and food preservation is kind of another mindset. So what's happened is my brain has switched to harvest and food preservation, and the growing, my brain is not in this fall growing, and that's why I'm just letting my chickens enjoy it, because then I don't feel guilty about it. But let me show you, that's a long-winded way to say these peas are kind of a mess. So what's happened is these peas were only supposed to be 24 inches tall, which is about as tall as these ones are right here, but they're not. They're probably more like 6 feet tall, because what's happened is they grew up, they fell over, then they started growing this way. Excuse my hands, I was doodling on my hands last night when I was waiting for my computer to do some work. And then they started growing straight up. The ones that had grown on the ground, because I didn't trellis them, have powdery mildew on them, not healthy. I'm just letting them grow, and then I'll compost them later. This has been a success though. I have some beautiful Chinese cabbages in here. These I grew from seed. The chickens don't seem to be interested in them at all, so we're gonna enjoy a nice fresh green snack. I'm gonna make a peanut sauce salad dressing to go on this cabbage. We have a ton of leeks here that have gone to flower, and I'm gonna harvest the seeds after the rainfall and they dry out. They're not quite ready to harvest the seeds yet, so that will be fun when we get to do that. And then we have this beautiful tomato trellis here. This has been such a success over here. I have a bunch of cherry tomatoes here that I kind of let go crazy. I stopped pruning them, and that's been way game changer. I'm gonna do a lot less pruning next year on my cherry tomatoes. These tomatoes here are kind of a flop. I have this written down. I think these are called like Lone Star or something. They're Celebrity, and I'm not gonna grow these again. They all split on the top like this. They didn't get very big, and I'm just not happy with that. So Celebrity is out next year, but this tomato trellis has worked great. But on the same trellis, you can see this is Dr. Witchy's tomato. This is one tomato. It's massive. It doesn't even fit in my hand. Hi, sweetie. I gotta put this somewhere so she doesn't eat it. And there's another one in there. Not quite as big, but pretty big. These Dr. Witchies get huge. And we better put this up high so you, Miss Chicken, don't eat my tomato. We're gonna set that right there like that so the chickens can't get it, right? All right, so you can see here, this potato bed has kind of gotten a little bit messy, but we're gonna work on it when we do a big garden cleanup day. These sweet potatoes are kind of a fail. You can see just these didn't do anything, and I'm gonna research this winter how to do straw bale gardening, and we're gonna do better with this next year. But for now, I know I've got a lot to learn when it comes to sweet potatoes and straw bales. Back here too, you can see the chickens have kind of messed up my bed. You can't tell where the walkway and where the bed are because they've been digging in there, which is fine. I'm just gonna have to come in and clean that. Now we have our really awesome sweet potato bed. This thing is lush and beautiful. We have had a little bit of damage here. You can see where a deer has come in and kind of eaten the tops of these. I don't know if that's gonna be a problem for the actual sweet potatoes in the ground, but I don't know when to pick these. I need to do some Googling. I'm gonna show you something. This little stinker. See, this is what they're doing. They're in here eating my fall garden, and I'm okay with it. I think why I'm okay with them in here eating this fall garden is because one, it's going to use, and two, then I don't have to deal with it. Sometimes that's okay. They're living their best life. They've been cooped up quite a bit this summer, and it's time for them to enjoy. There's two over here eating corn. So I wanted to show you the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. These chickens are jumping for the corn. They've learned to open the corn husks. There was a couple that I didn't open or didn't harvest, and they've learned how to open the husk and jump for the corn. You see Miss one right here? I'm supposed to be talking about sweet potatoes right now, but my chicken just pecked me. You girls are too cute and you distracted me. Isn't that the funniest thing you've ever did see? I love how both their feet pop up off the ground. Enough with the chickens. We need to get back to the sweet potato bed. So other than this little bit of damage area, the plants themselves look really great. I just don't know when to harvest them, so I need to do some Googling on that. Coming around here, we have another bed that actually it's done. I'm considering this bed completely done. We have a couple failed items in here, a couple cabbages that got sunburned. This cabbage actually, I think I'm gonna harvest this one. I think this one's probably good. But the rest of them split. They never grew. They never did anything. They're rotting. We've got weeds in here. We have Swiss chard that's been eaten by chickens, which is fine. We have some failed cabbage here, and our kale is completely done. It is just done. I need to come in. We're gonna do a day where we're gonna hang out together and we're gonna clean all these beds. I had black beans planted all between these kale plants, and I do see that I missed one here. Those black beans actually did really well. That was definitely a success, was growing the black beans between the kale plants. But some of the other things in here were not so much of a success, which is totally fine. We're gonna learn from it. We're gonna do better next year. I mean, let's get this before it goes to seed. Coming from this bed over here, we have a bed, my asparagus strawberry bed. This one has gone crazy. I do need to come and trim all these runners. I want to transplant those. I just haven't had a chance to. This is asparagus. That's what these tall things are. These are what asparagus look like when they get fully mature. They look like trees. This bed is 100% kales, and I planted this for the chickens, and they've taken advantage of that as they've been running around. They've been out here just enjoying eating this kale, exactly what I wanted it for. Ugh, there's a weed with a bunch of black aphids on it. It's gross. But these plants are done. I'm gonna let the chickens continue to eat that. But I did harvest a bunch of that kale for us too. But for the most part, this bed is basically done. Some of the plants look like they have some powdery mildew on them. Chickens don't seem to mind it. They're eating it. And I think I'm gonna do this again next year. This was full of weeds, just completely full of weeds. Those are actually pea plants that volunteered themselves there. And the chickens have come through since I've been letting them out, and they've been eating this up. I have some compost in place here. This I think is gonna become a strawberry bed for next year. This fall and winter, I'm gonna come in and clean all this up. That's just weeds back there, and I need to mulch that. And I wanna create a large chicken run. I just have not had a chance to do that. Coming around here, have my green bean plants. These were provider green beans. I don't think I'm gonna grow that variety next year. They were pretty kind of tough, and I just wasn't super happy with them. And I have a container over there that I didn't show you, that I planted Blue Lake bush beans, and those beans were tender. They were way more prolific. Not that I need more green beans. I'm not gonna grow as many green beans next year, especially if I grow the Blue Lake ones, because they are way more prolific. But I wasn't happy with the flavor and the texture. We're gonna eat all the green beans, but I know that there's better varieties out there. So not doing providers next year. We have another chicken laying an egg. Coming down from this bed, we have some sweet potatoes in here, which I think I've mentioned this before, that I can't believe sweet potatoes grew in this bed just because of how little sun this bed gets. But I'm excited to pull those sweet potatoes up along with the other ones to see which ones did better or worse or whatever, because if they did well in this bed, then I'll probably plant sweet potatoes in this bed next year. Coming around to here, we've got a bunch of parsley. This parsley has done great. I think I've gotten like 4 harvests off this parsley. Coming down from the parsley, we have my Brussels sprouts, which did nothing. This is the second year I've tried to grow Brussels sprouts and they've done nothing. So I have let the chickens eat on them a little bit. And I don't know if I'm gonna grow Brussels sprouts next year. We'll see. I probably will. I have some cauliflower in here that didn't really do anything. This stuff is going to flower. I didn't harvest it in time because it was so small. And my celery, you guys, I never got out here and harvested it. I should have done this so long ago. The celery is done. I've got some celery root here. This is celery root. I'm gonna harvest this now because I need to. This isn't celery root. You eat this part of the celery and delicious, especially if you roast it with potatoes, and that's what I'm gonna do. And I need to get those out of the ground. My celery, let's be honest, I'm showing you honesty. I never harvested this, and now it's kind of rotting and gross, and I'm not gonna eat it. So we have a friend that just got here. So this celery, I never got to it. I'm bummed that I never got to it, but I never did, and now it's not good. And it is what it is, just like These cauliflowers, they were this big, so I never harvested them, and now they're not good anymore. I did have one, I'll show a picture of it, one beautiful cauliflower here that surprised me. I just came out here one day and it was ready to harvest, and I harvested it, and we cooked it together in a mushroom curry. I don't know if that video's out or not, but I did cook that with you guys, and it was delicious. When it comes to things like that celery that I didn't harvest, one, I do feel guilty about it because it is kind of like a waste of food and a waste of my energy and a waste of my resources. But it was a learning experience. I can't do it all. I can't do it all. And that's one thing that I didn't get to this year. And I have kind of a list in my head of things that I want to do better with next year. And we'll go over all those things together, so when we get to that. But one of the things is really focusing on harvesting things when they're at their peak ripeness and not wasting them. And so that's just one thing we're going to work on together next year together. We're chalking this up to a learning experience, and we're going to move on, and we're not going to feel bad about it any longer, even though I still kind of do. So let's go to this bed. This bed was a complete success. It's looking a little sad now. This is where I had some provider beans that are done. I just need to pull them up. This was all the black beans in here, and oh my gosh, we got so many black beans this year. I'm going to grow more black beans next year. I went through and I harvested a bunch of pumpkins in a harvest video, and I took the plants and I just put the plants in here, and I'm going to let them compost in place here. And so that's what's happening in this bed. I have some zinnias in here still. I've got some kale plants. These kale plants the chickens were eating on, but they actually look like they've grown quite a bit. I might come out and get some of these leaves for us before the chickens find them. Coming around here, this bed was also a complete success. This, I think, was a volunteer sunflower that I think a deer stepped on, and oh, what's that? Oh, here's a squash of some sort that an animal got to. We got 2 zucchini plants here. I'm letting these just grow. I probably won't get much more zucchini off them because they're starting to get disease, but I can see right there is one, so I'm going to just let them go and see what happens before I pull the rest of them up. You can see how she's digging a hole there. That's what they like to do. They like to get down past the mulch, get to the dirt where the bugs are. So that's why I have these like indents all along my walkways where the chickens have done that. So this bed was a complete success. We got so much squash. I'll show you all the squash we got. It was an excessive amount of squash. I'm gonna let these compost in place. I do have one pumpkin here I need to bring in. That I don't think that's even attached. I don't think this vine is attached to the dirt anymore, so that just needs to come in. It's just sitting here ripening out here. I've got this bed. This bed has some more squash that are still ripening out here. I have a few spaghetti squash that need to ripen out here. And I think that, oh, it looks like there might be a little pumpkin there. Got just a sugar pie pumpkin. That one actually I could bring inside now. We got another little sugar pie pumpkin over here. And then I have a zucchini plant here, which I'm gonna actually harvest that zucchini. And I have a zucchini plant. Oh, there's actually a big zucchini right there, and we're gonna get those right now. Got a Roma tomato here I'm gonna grab. Hey, sweetheart, you're the one digging a hole in my garden, aren't ya? My walkway. I just really enjoy having them out. I just warms my heart. These plants are still producing fruit, so I'm not gonna pull them out until we have our first frost. There's another one over here. They do have powdery mildew on them. Oh, what's that? Bug eggs on there that I'm going to kill. And just smash those. So they do have signs of disease. I'm not going to treat them with anything. I'm going to, these plants are probably going to be stunted at this point, but I'm going to just let them go and see what happens. So I am encouraging them not to dig in the bed. So get out of the bed. You have enough areas. Go, go, go. You have enough stuff to dig in. Nope. Stay out of the bed. I do have volunteer tomatoes in here, and they've done okay. I just harvested a few. This is my other pepper bed. And I do have a few peppers in here, not that many left that I need to come out and harvest the peppers. I did harvest a ton of zinnia seeds. I do have a video on that if you want to know how to harvest some of your flower seeds. And I harvested some of my white marigold seeds. So that was super fun. But you can see there are some little peppers in here. I should probably just come get them because they're not going to do much more. Just showing you the jungliness of it. These are more basil plants. These were lemon basil plants that went to seed. And we have our Echinacea here. Now, I didn't know this, but Echinacea apparently doesn't always flower the first year. And to be honest with you, I didn't know Echinacea was a perennial. I thought it was an annual, and I'm still not 100% sure which one it is, but in one of my videos someone said that it doesn't always flower the first year, which leads me to believe that maybe it is a perennial, and I could just do a simple Google search, and I don't know why I haven't, but I just haven't yet. And we are not going to be making Echinacea tincture this year. That was my goal, was to make some Echinacea tincture, but we're going to have to wait until next year. And I'm going to do some more research on it. If you hear more pecking, the girls are over here still eating the corn on the cob, which I think is the cutest thing I ever did see. Hi, sweetie. Hi. I'm going to come out here this afternoon and harvest a bunch of these volunteer tomatoes that we have on the ground, because I think when we get that rain, they're going to start to get diseased. Oh my goodness, do you see what I see right here? So this is my tomato and tomatillo trellis, which has done fantastic. I just harvested a bunch of tomatillos this morning, and I made some salsa verde with that. And look at this beautiful baby. Let's see if I can do this without startling her. She is taking a little bit of a dust bath right in underneath my tomatoes. It's probably nice and cool under here, isn't it? I think the way that chickens take dust baths is so funny. They almost look like they're injured or something when they lay in the dirt. Oh. You just kick a bunch of dust on your sister? Hi. This is the one that has the owie spot, and I have one of those saddles. You guys recommended me getting one of those saddles, and I have it coming on its way. Hi, sweetie. So we're gonna fix her up, and then I also have, I don't remember the name, I'm gonna put it on the screen. I have some antimicrobial stuff that's for chickens that we're gonna put on her that I'm gonna get from one of you on Instagram recommended it for me, and it's an antiseptic that's a natural, like, herbal antiseptic for chickens. So I'm gonna get that and put that on her, and then we're gonna get the saddle so that these meanies, I don't know who it is, aren't gonna pick on your sister anymore, right? You're not gonna pick on your sister anymore, because that's not nice. She thinks I'm a rooster, that's why she's doing this. That's not nice, is it? No, not nice at all. All right, let's get back to the garden tour. These are my big beef tomatoes plants, and I am gonna be growing a ton of these next year. They're just stunning tomatoes. They're like the perfect specimen of a tomato. I love them, and we're gonna be growing a bunch of them. I need to get out here and harvest the rest of the red ones. You can see how much they're enjoying themselves, aren't you? You chickens are distracting me from the garden tour. You are. This is Olive. Olive's the one that's picked on. She irritates me so much. That's Oreo, the black one, and she's got her eyes closed and she's just sleeping, relaxing, relaxing. Chickens are, I honestly don't eat a ton of their eggs. I give 90% of their eggs away. We don't eat a ton of eggs, but having chickens is one of the best things you can ask for. If you've never had chickens and you want chickens and you can get chickens, or you've thought about getting chickens, I would recommend you get chickens. From the tomatillo and tomato trellis, we've got this other tomato bed that's basically done. This is where I had a bunch of volunteer tomatoes. I had calendula here that's basically done, gone to seed, and it's done. We had carrots in here, and I need to come in and pick some volunteer tomatoes that we got there. But this bed I'm calling done. We'll get out the last few tomatoes, and that's it. The last thing I want to mention in this garden that we haven't really talked about since I planted it is I planted wine cap mushrooms all in my garden. I bought the mycelium and I planted them, and I did that this spring. And we won't know if it was a success until the rains come and it's fall, which the rains are coming. And so hopefully soon we're gonna know if we got wine cap mushrooms to grow. I planted them all in the wood chips around my garden, around all the garden beds. So I'm hoping that we get some wine cap mushrooms this fall. A lot of this stuff is done and kind of pulled out, and I wanted to show you the realistic, this is not an Instagram worthy garden right now. This is kind of gritty, overgrown, weedy, real life rotted stuff out there, and that's okay. It's okay. I have to tell myself it's okay, because I do feel guilty about it sometimes, even though I shouldn't feel guilty. I've done a lot of stuff and it's been very productive, and we've been able to grow a ton of food, and that's the goal, is grow a ton of food. But then I do feel guilty about the little bit that we didn't get to. Like, I don't even think I mentioned this spinach I planted. I didn't harvest one spinach leaf from that planting. And I just have to be okay with it, because there's literally nothing I can do about it now. So when I go to put these beds to bed, I have some ideas, and we are going to be using the things that I didn't harvest as compost, and we're going to continue to build our soil. We need to continue to build our soil. My soil in these beds was not perfect when I put them in this bed, because I could not afford the premium soil. What I put in these beds when I built these beds, I guess I don't think I've ever told you. It was a mixture of 40% compost, 10% sand, and 50% topsoil. So it was kind of a mixture of a bunch of things, and I want to continue to amend them. Before I planted anything in each one of these beds, I did put a layer of composted horse manure on top, and we're going to add some more of that. And then I have some other ideas like composting in place, or we're going to continue just to build the soil, build the quality of the soil, and build more life into the soil, because there wasn't a lot of life in the soil when I bought it, and it's starting to get better. So I'm going to use that spinach as like a live compost when we get to it, but it's probably going to be a month or so before we start actually putting these beds to bed, and we're going to do that together, because I'm going to need your help and your encouragement when it comes to putting these beds to bed, because it is going to be a big project and it's going to be a lot of work. But my goal is to try to prep the beds so that when it comes spring, I'll be able to just plant right into them. So it's going to be kind of a little bit of a push to get these beds to bed ready to go, so that when it comes spring, I'm not going to have to do as much prep work, because I had to do a lot of prep work to each one of these beds before I was able to plant in them. So we're going to do that together. I want to say a huge thank you for all the encouragement you guys give me. One, you give me a bunch of knowledge and advice and tips, and I appreciate all that, because I am still so new to this and I don't really know totally what I'm doing, and I've learned so much from each one of you. So I really appreciate the fact that you take time out of your day to kind of help guide me along, because I feel like this garden is a group effort. You guys are a huge part of getting me to where I need to be and continuing to learn and build, and we're learning together, and it's super fun. She is super proud of herself. She just came out of the coop and laid an egg, and I'm super proud of her for doing it. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna set the camera down. I'm going to enjoy just probably an hour or two in the garden harvesting some of these tomatoes, things you've already seen me harvest, peppers and things like that, and just try to take some quiet time in here while we have this beautiful day before the rains come. My other chicken is just laying an egg, and so it's getting a little bit loud out here. So thank you again for hanging out with me. If you enjoyed this, I'd greatly appreciate a thumbs up. If you're new, please consider subscribing. We do a ton of fun stuff. Basically, this channel revolves around food. We grow food, we preserve food, we cook food, we're gonna do some organizing. Oh my gosh, you don't even want to look in some of the areas of my house, because they are a disaster. They're actually giving me anxiety, because I know how messy they are, but I just don't have time to deal with them, and we are going to be dealing with them this winter, and I'm super thrilled about that, and I just need the motivation to get there. So please consider subscribing if you're new, if any of that interests you. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.